get started, so if we could just keep the back noise a little quiet, okay? So we're going to go ahead and get started with the meeting today, okay? Should I? Okay, let me see. Can you guys hear me? No? Oh, darn. Okay. Yes, you guys come up. Sit here.
That's why when we were setting up those chairs, we took them back.
I guess I don't have my classroom voice anymore. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Joanne Lowe, and I'm the Interim Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. So I will be chairing the meeting today. So I'd like to officially call this meeting to order, and it's at 3:39, okay? And I think because we have an agenda that was posted, we're going to follow today's agenda. And Grace tells me that we generally do a roll call, but I think there are some members that are actually not sitting here, and I'm wanting to ask the group, would you mind if we don't do a roll call, but have you sign in? Would that be okay?
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay. We don't have our quorum yet, so we're going to change the order and do the approval of the minutes a little bit later on the agenda. And we'd like to start with the Chancellor's conversation.
This is kind of unique here. So, a couple things, just a couple quick things. As Joanne mentioned, as the VCAA, she is the chair, will be the interim chair of the PGC at this time. We are looking at possibly having, I know this has been a very formalized process that the PGC has become. I think formality has a use sometimes, but I also think sometimes it can be too formal. So I would ask that the PGC, as it moves forward, maybe look at some options in terms of best practices, just in terms of what's the best way to actually have conversations where we're having some real conversations and maybe a little bit less formality in that regard. We have several BPs, board policies, and administrative policies that are out there at large. And I think we talked about this a little bit last time, is one of my concerns has been, as far as these board policies and administrative policies, is that we're coming to the PGC and then at that point sometimes saying, wait, this is an academic and professional matter, we haven't weighed into it. Wait, this is a student matter, students haven't seen it. So I think for right now, if we take a little bit of a pause before we start moving forward with these and get our processes right on the front side, I feel that by the time it gets to the PGC, there should not be a constituency group that's here that's basically having to say, wait, we didn't get our say in this matter. I think it makes a really difficult decision, a difficult situation for the PGC. I think it also puts our organization at odds, and I think really going forward, we need to really act together. So I think that's when by the time it gets to this group, that way we can have some lively and some good debate, but we're also looking at the overall issues, and we know that it's had student input, we know that it's had faculty input, we know that it's had administrative input, and we also know that it's had student input, and especially on those areas that are specific purviews of specific groups. I also want to mention that Jim Grivich had been working on pulling together some of the policies and procedures. He has turned that over to Steve Bruckman. Steve Bruckman will be basically looking at the CCLC policies, looking at our internal policies, and starting with those templates. So I look at that as a very positive thing. He's here, he's aware as far as what's going on in different areas, and he knows who to solicit feedback from in terms of, oh, do we have a policy for that? Or, you know, is there something out there that we may be unaware of? Okay? I guess the last one is, I did want to mention, and I will be sending out email tonight. Virginia Paris did depart us yesterday from City College. As a result, I have been having conversations college-wide in regards to a possible reorganization. I had gotten feedback from all constituency groups, talked to faculty, talked to classified, talked to the unions, talked to students, and had solicited feedback across the boards. I had not anticipated doing the restructuring at this time, but with her departure, it just makes sense to go forward with that restructuring. Basically, it is going back to a traditional structure of having a Vice Chancellor of Student Development, a Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs, and a Vice Chancellor of Finance and Administration. The departments that had been split, for example, Student Services that had been split between two different areas, will be consolidated back under Student Development. The areas like Buildings and Grounds that had been split apart from capital projects, even though they share some specific budgets, will be put back under the Vice Chancellor of Finance and Administration. The police, once again, will go back to Finance and Administration, and the deans will go back under the Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs. So going back to a very traditional college structure, very similar to the structure that we basically had about 2 years ago. I think it serves several purposes. Number one, I think it eliminates a lot of questions of responsibilities inside the organization. I think it also, as far as outside the organization, in recent years, there have been questions from visiting support groups. For example, we had a group come in regards to planning this spring that was asking, wait, does this student services person go here or there, or who do they report to? We had a similar response from the visiting team that was confusing the roles of the VCAA and the president. So I think it will take us back to a more traditional structure. I think it will eliminate some of the confusion inside and then also externally as we go toward accreditation. Okay?
I'm sorry, it's a little bit weird for me to be chairing it from here. So under the next item, chair report, I was just going to use this time for a little bit of clarification for myself here. Okay. So I'll just do this first and then we'll come back to the minutes. So the meeting dates and times, we meet the first and third Thursday of the month, and I noticed that on the posted agenda it says that the meetings start at 3 o'clock and sometimes it says 3:30. My understanding is that the official time for this meeting is at 3:30, and Grace will be updating the website so that we can get the correct time listed. And I apologize for the audience members who came earlier before the 3:30 start time and were waiting for the meeting. In addition, wanted to remind the constituent groups that we need the memberships for membership coming from your group for the starting in August. There's going to be a change, so we will be posting the new members so you can get those lists to us. And the other item that we need is that for agenda review, we will need the names of the members who will be coming to the agenda review, which is the Friday before each meeting. Okay, so you can get those names to us. And it in terms of my notes and announcements. Oh, there was one more. There was a item where it says I was supposed to talk to you about canceling the August 6th meeting, and but I don't have a reason for why we were canceling the August 6th meeting at a time when we seem to have a lot of work going on.
There's a board meeting.
Okay, so it conflicts with the board meeting.
Or we could shift it earlier, maybe.
So could we shift that particular meeting to earlier in the day? This board meeting usually start about 4.
Yeah, the question would be if they want to cancel it or shift it earlier.
Okay. So would the group like to cancel that particular meeting or shift it earlier in the day? Any comments?
Yeah, I'm not here that day.
You're not here that day?
Neither is, you guys aren't here either, neither?
Lillian?
I am very much hoping not to be here on August 6th.
I thought you guys were very much hoping we won't cancel that. Okay. Okay. So
On my end, I'm okay with earlier.
you're okay with earlier. Can I just find, so it sounds like quite a few members are, of the ones present today are not going to be here on the 6th. So is consensus that we would be canceling that particular meeting then? Yes? Anyone who can't live with that idea?
So we need to do this.
Just to be difficult, would it be possible to have it on the following Thursday, on the 13th instead?
The 13th, I believe, is Independent
that's
Flex Day, so we're getting into the start of the semester. Okay. So, canceling August 6th, is that okay? Okay. Do I see all thumbs?
Going right direction.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay. The next items is awards and recognitions. Does someone have any announcement for this particular agenda item? Lillian?
Wendy Miller finished her master's degree.
Congratulations. Are there other announcements? I believe we had someone who finished the Senior Olympics. Grace, what was the name of the individual?
I only know him Frank. So he finished second place for the Senior Olympics,
Okay.
representing Northern U.S.
In that.
What is in?
Senior Olympics.
What are you doing
Oh.
about swimming?
Oh.
Frank is cyclist.
Cyclist.
Cyclist, okay.
He does cycling.
Just cycling. But we were just so happy that we had someone who was finishing.
5K, 10K.
Okay. No other announcements for awards and recognitions? Then we move on to, let's go back to the approval of the minutes, okay, now that we have a quorum. So I think if you want to take a few minutes to just look over the minutes. any comments on the minutes? No comments, corrections? Well, I'd like to have Terry Hall's name spelled correctly. There's a missing R. And I noticed that under roll call, we have members present listed twice, and I was wondering, was that supposed to be members absent and then also members present? Or was that just a duplication? It's a duplication. Comments from the group?
Make a motion that we approve these with the corrections that you've mentioned.
Does anyone second?
Second.
Is there first motion and second? All those approve? I'm using thumbs, okay. Thumbs? Okay, so the minutes are approved as corrected. Consent agenda, we don't have any items for the consent agenda. Under unfinished business, we don't have any items for unfinished business. New business, we don't have anything listed. So that brings us to standing committee updates. So the accreditation update, I believe Kristen is here to provide a report.
It's really brief. And
Would you
feel
like
free
to-
to pipe up. Sure, I'll use this.
Hello.
So, a couple things. One is, I know we began the process of giving you comprehensive updates on the standards, and we will resume that, but we're on hold at the moment. We just want to get a little more direction from the board in terms of what they would like to see in those comprehensive updates. So that will begin again in September and October. You know, it's also a little bit of a lull now too, so the work groups, however, are not in a lull because they are working very diligently on developing their deep outlines by August 1st. So it also allows them some time to really focus on that and to really spend some mindful time on coming up with those presentations as well. And just quickly, I believe everyone is aware that there was the injunction hearing on July 8th. That was a very brief hearing, essentially. Chancellor Lamb was there along with Steve Bruckman and Lillian and Trustee Mendelman, and they were given 10 minutes to make a presentation, and that was essentially it. There were some introductions, a presentation, no questions after that, and they were thanked, and they left, and that was all. And I regretfully couldn't be there because I was actually on vacation, so it would have been my first time to meet everyone on the commission. So that's the update on that, and I believe Chancellor Lamb also put that on, and this will do. And so again, comprehensive updates in September and October. I think that's what I have to tell you. Lillian, is there anything to add at this point?
Everybody's working.
Everybody's working, yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah. And thank you for all of you who are working.
We're updating the website.
Oh, thank you. That's actually right. Yes, we are working on thank you. We are working on updating the website. Sherry, Moralia, and did I say your last name correctly? Okay. And Katrin Weiss, who are here with us today, have been doing research on other accreditation websites to come up with models. And a survey went out. They have some results from that survey. There are, as with anything, there are pluses and minuses with the various models they came up with. But they are going to be working with a working group, essentially, of the Accreditation Steering Committee to kind of map out what some ideas for a new website that's much more streamlined than what we have. Also making sure that we are consistent and aligned with the policies of the Accrediting Commission. So they might be identifying some other areas on our website where we refer to accreditation that's not the official part of the accreditation website, where we need to be careful about how we're presenting information really more than anything how we're labeling it, to be clear about what part of our website is the official accreditation website versus other references to accreditation. So we'll make sure that any recommendations that bubble up through that will be going through a process that involves the appropriate constituents and conversations and et cetera. But the website itself, at the end of all this, should be a nice, clean, neat, tight space. Okay? Any questions? No?
Did you have a nice vacation?
I had a fabulous vacation, thank you. Yeah. I haven't hit burnout yet. So, all right, thank you. Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Well,
Tim.
actually, it's not a question. I just
Yeah.
wanted to make a couple of more comments about the accreditation actions that are happening in the state legislature.
Yeah.
Yesterday, the Senate Education Committee voted out to the Senate Appropriations, and then it'll go to the whole body, AB 1397 by Phil Ting. And I don't want to go into all the provisions of the bill. It's a pretty long list of things. But, for example, things like there would be a new appeals process if this became law, where every level of sanction, a college would be able to have an appeal process. So if you had, like, in our case, show cause, we would have been able to appeal it then. Or a warning, you'd be able to appeal it then. Things like there would be no, their shredding policy. They'd have to save their documents for 3 years at least. The laws for transparency around open meetings would be very similar to all actual government agencies that have the similar kind of public function that ACCJC has for the colleges, but they're a private organization. There would be stronger conflict of interest policies, making it similar also to what would be in the rest of California, and make those similar type of rules apply. So that made it through the legislature yesterday, and we're hoping that that will become law, and we'll stay tuned for that. Thanks very much to Phil Ting. I really want to. He's done an excellent job.
And thank you, Tim. That's great.
Thank you very much, Kristen. We're up to miscellaneous reports and updates. But we see Bushra. Did you want your packet?
Not right now. I
Okay.
just would like to make public comments when
Okay.
it's time to make public comment.
Okay. So under your standard 4, we're supposed to have a report on standard 4A. Kalani is not here today, so we will not have that report. We will then have a presentation from Chief Andre Barnes on the Clery Act.
Seems like church in here. So. I'm not about to preach to you. Are you going to? Okay, good. You're going to click this. Okay, I have about 20 or so PowerPoint slides to go. It's going to take you about 2.5 hours. But we'll get through them all and get you out of here. Hopefully this won't take too long and bore too many of you here. What I'm going to be talking about is what's known in our circles is the Jean Cleary Act, or the Campus Control Act of 1990, which is a federal law here that colleges and universities have to comply with. Let me ask a quick question. How many of you in here are not familiar at all with Cleary? A few of you? Okay, that's good. So, I need at least 5 people else. I'm just going to leave you. So, otherwise, you guys are all experts. So a lot of it's going to be a little repeat with some update. There's some new laws that have come into play. Just got back from Nashville, Tennessee, where we had a conference with international nation campus law enforcement chiefs of police to discuss some of the new things that are coming out in Cleary. So let me just go right into it then, and then talk a little bit about it for those who aren't familiar with the Jean Cleary Act. Basically, its history is that it came about back in 1990. First slide, it talks a little bit about this young lady, or maybe not, must say race. Anyway, just quickly, Jean Cleary Pennsylvania back in 1986. And as her parents did a little investigation about the incident, they had found that she had been raped and murdered by another student who was arrested, but that he had also committed a number of rapes prior to the case with her. And the college knew about it, and at the time they failed to share that information with the rest of the campus so that people could kind of be aware, make sure you lock your doors and all those kind of things. So the information wasn't shared. While they weren't in violation of law because it didn't exist, but what occurred then is her parents got together and they formed a group that looked into this and was able to get some legislation passed that says now college campuses for certain kind of crimes have to notify the campus community. And we'll discuss it as we go through a little further. Some notifications that have to take place when people apply to the campus there, and ongoing information. So there's policy compliance that you have to comply with, and then there's annual reporting as well for things that do occur. And as you saw earlier on, there was information about fines if you don't comply, because this is tied to federal regulations. So any college or university that receives federal funds in any form has to comply. The Clery Act generally doesn't apply to private universities, again, unless they're getting federal funding, then they have to come into compliance. Okay? And so, if you look at, I'm sorry, go back a bit. Okay. What it talks about here, and the reason why I'm sharing it with you, because a lot of people are confused that Clery compliance is related to crime only, and it's the purview of the police department to handle it. So, which is untrue. It is an institutional concern, meaning when we get audited, and we just got audited last year and did fairly well. I'll share a little bit of information about that. But basically, there's a lot of things that, yes, the Public Safety Department has, but basically, they look at this as an institutional concern, meaning we need to have policies and procedures that protect our folks, from possible criminal behavior, training regarding sexual assault, and also making sure that those who are what we would call campus security authorities, and we'll talk about that in a moment, know who they are and know how to report this information to the proper location. Okay, whether it's public safety, or it might be student conduct, or Title IX coordinators. So again, it's something that we all have to chip in and work on. We, the public safety, have a responsibility for our annual security report that we put out every year in October that discussed the previous 3 years crime activity on campus. And so you'll see that online with us, and a limited number of paper copies we throw out about. But anyway, it's about policies and procedures for the college, not just police department. What is it? Again, it's compliance. And again, these procedures are ongoing compliance, and we also have to keep up with things that come into play throughout the year. The law is constantly changing, so we certainly have to keep up with that. We have to keep records and retain that information, and most importantly, we have to share information. In regards to the audit that we just had about a year ago, we had a financial aid audit. I don't see financial aid, the dean here. But typically when they look at financial aid, they'll look at Clery and see if you're in compliance, because our financial aid is tied to that. So we did pretty well here. We had a few instances where they saw us out of compliance. Most of it had to do with nomenclature, and we were able to quickly go in the computer and fix some things here. We took care of that. The one biggie that we got hit on, and I had to apologize and since fix that though, is that when we put this information out every October, we're required to send out an email saying this information is available online for you to see, and if you want a hard copy, you can come to our office and get that. We didn't do that last year, that slipped by, but we're rectifying that to make sure we have a protocol that'll happen all the time. So that was kind of our biggest thing. So we did okay, no money was involved. The slide earlier spoke a little bit about fines. It just went up from $27,000 an incident to $35,000 an incident. So you don't want to get fined. There's a lot of costs involved. over the last couple of years, a couple of colleges have had to spend a couple of $100,000 that they had to pay. And this is all done by the Department of Education. Again, some quick key areas that we look at: reporting crime, and that's where you really come in. Reporting information to us, because not everybody that's a victim of a crime comes to law enforcement. All right, there's a lot of things that occur, particularly at our centers, that may not reach me here up in our office, so that we can report that stuff. So if you have, and we'll talk about what those crimes are. It isn't every crime in the book. I don't know if anybody ever seen a penal code. You can hardly take 2 or 3 steps without violating that thing. It gets pretty thick. But luckily, by the way, when I used to be a beat cop, we used to follow people around. If you want to give somebody a ticket, all you had to do was follow them for 2 blocks. The penal code was that thick. You could not commit some kind of violation. So if we were short on tickets, all we did was follow a car for a bit, and then we make out. And that's how crime is. So thank God it's not every crime, just a handful, and we'll go through those. But reporting crimes, people have to know in terms of, is it their responsibility to report a crime? You may have some folks say, hey, it's not my business, I'm not a cop, and something happens, and you hear about something, and you don't follow through with it, at least reporting it. Doesn't mean we have to investigate it. If one of those crimes occur and the victim really doesn't want to do much, you can't just forget about it. We still have to know about it and record it. Okay, we don't have to do anything else about it, but we have to have that recorded. Policies and procedures about how we collect that information we have to have. There's crime prevention policies that we need to have. What is it, Leslie, she's retired now. Took her place, but the program that they run, that really assists, potential sexual assault victims. We have to have crime prevention strategies, and the information that they put out has to go in our annual security report, and the training that they do throughout the campus. So we keep up with that. And again, training covers a couple of things. It means training for our police officers who are going to be reporting crime, training for folks who on this campus are called campus security authorities, and we'll talk about who those folks are again. They have to get training. Anyone that's involved in student conduct, student discipline, they have to take annual training, and we have to document that that's occurred. So those are areas that we touch. Under timely warnings and emergency warnings, I know you folks have got emails from us throughout the years here, and you see things posted in certain occasions when incidents occur. There are requirements under when we have to put that information out, how quickly, and what information should be shared, and how we share it. Basically, for any type of emergency warning or timely warning, we have to put it out in a manner that most likely, a large percentage of your constituents would receive that information. Okay? So typically, we're okay electronically because most people have some type of email connected to us. All right? Let's see here. Again, timely warning bulletin. Also, we're required to keep daily crime logs, so at any given time, you folks want to know what type of crime is going on throughout the district here. We have that information available. Again, our annual security report, we put that out every October. We are required to keep a sex offender registration, and this always freaks a little people out. We do have people who are registered here under California Penal Code 290. They've been charged in a criminal court and convicted, have to be convicted. You've been convicted of some type of sexual assault, and you now have to register within the cities and counties that you live in, and also at colleges and universities. So if you are come under that heading of 290 registrant, and the courts will let you know, you're required to make sure that you register with us. And most folks do. At any given time, we probably have about 20 or so sex offenders that are registered here. So they're here. And it's up to them to comply with, the law as it relates to that. They have to register, make sure they're not violating law. If they can't be around kids, they shouldn't, be in the child care program, something of that nature, those kind of things. So, unfortunately, the folks that are really responsible for watching them is their parole and probation officers. We don't track them other than make sure that they register. But anytime you want information, we can share with you about how many folks we got here. And in some cases, we may be able to share some of their crimes. They are put into two categories, serious and non-serious. Those who are non-serious, you know, they get to be treated like any other student. We can't single those folks out. You know, we can't make them, you know, wear a red star or anything like that, or, you know, point them out in class and those kind of things. That's a violation of the law. We can't do that. For serious offenders, if we can show that they're likely to be a threat to our campus, we can send out information and say, hey, by the way, this particular individual is registered at our school now. But you have to be real careful with that. So far I haven't run into a case that we seem to needed to do that. All right, go to the next slide. Reporting locations is a key bit of information that folks need to know. It's typically any crime that occurs on our campus property, whether it's here at the Ocean campus, on our centers, at any of our lease facilities. Those are reportable crimes for Cleary here. Also, areas has pathways to the college here, so folks are on their way to the bar, going over that crossing there where the bus crosses Ocean, that overhang there. While we may not be the responding law enforcement agency, we still have to report those crimes in our statistics. So even though it may be handled by San Francisco PD, so every year we send a letter saying, are there any cases that you've had surrounding our campus that we need to put in our report? And they respond to that. One thing that is a little tricky for us is particularly areas of sporting events. I don't see anybody from the athletic department here, is that where we have sporting events, and I know for softball and some other places we lease a facility and we go out and use that field. During the time that we are in control of that, if any incidents occur, that has to be reported back to us. Sometimes we miss that because, you know, they'll call the local police, or they'll see an incident occur in the location and they're non-students, so they don't think they have to report it. It doesn't matter if the folks involved are students or you know, non-students or non-campus related. If it occurs during that time at that property that we're in control of it, that information needs to get back to us. All right, next here. Who is responsible? So how many of you good folks in here, this participation part, are campus security authorities, folks who are responsible for taking action and notifying the police department if you see a crime occur? How many? By show of hands, how many are? Okay, I'll deputize the rest of you if you're not sure. Basically, what a campus security authority is somebody that has to, you know, report that information to us. And in yellow there, that's kind of the definition. Any official employee of CCSF who has significant responsibility for students and campus activity. So if you fall into that category, you are now been promoted to CSA and a stipend is coming your way. Right?
Thank you.
So you got it. You like that. So pretty much, you know, there's a lot of people that fall in there. Now, faculty is a little tricky. We have it up there, but maybe not necessarily. You know, a lot of faculty, you know, you may have a class, particularly if you have one of those theater classes where you teach 500 people, you sneak in the back door, teach for 30 minutes and leave. You really don't have a lot of responsibility. You just kind of, and I'm not saying that as bad, but I apologize for the folks. But you know, you haven't taken those folks under your wing. You know, you don't feed them, driving back and forth to college here. So you may not necessarily be responsible. But you know, if you take them on field trips and those kind of things, then you might fall under there. But for the most part, you know, certainly police, any administrator. With people that fit in that category there. And so what that said is, if you have knowledge of something that's going on, and even if, and we've had cases where, you know, somebody doesn't want to get the police involved, we just need a number, okay, in that case. You know, so you got to get that number to us so that we can document that. All right, next slide here. When there's a comes to us here are a witness, a third party, or the last one. I haven't seen that happen yet, where the offenders come up and say, I've just committed this heinous crime. I want to make sure you get it in your annual security report. I haven't seen that one happen yet, but it's coming, I'm sure. It's coming. But we have to look at, we don't necessarily rely on the victim themselves to report it. If a third party or witness comes and tells us about something, we want to try to investigate it. And again, at the least, we have to report that. All right. Next here. And again, crimes must be disclosed to us whether or not we investigate it. You know, many of them we don't. Or whether or not somebody's been assigned to investigate the crime itself, or we found some responsible party for the crime. So, all right. Next. Reportable offenses. So this is what we're looking at. Again, we're not looking at all crimes here. We're looking at homicides. I'm pretty clear that most of you see a dead body, a knife sticking in the back, they tied up. It's not a suicide. It's a homicide. You're going to report that. I feel pretty confident most of you slip me a note. You will? Appreciate it. Okay. So that's what it is. So then the others are any sex offenses that occur, or crimes that are reportable in the Clery, robbery, aggravated assault, burglary, motor vehicle theft, arson. Now, hate crimes should be reported to us. Now, for a little education and law enforcement here, in terms of hate crime is not a standalone crime. A hate crime is identified by one of these other crimes occurring or some other type of crime occurring, and people committed that crime for a particular reason. You know, for race, you know, sexual orientation, gender, age. You know, if you commit a battery for that, or some kind of assault, not only will it be an assault, it'll also be classified as a hate crime. You know, depending on why you chose that particular victim or did that particular crime. So it's an enhancement and an attachment to one of the already crimes that's in the penal code. Drug and liquor offenses as well. Let's see, what role does Campus Security Authority play? Again, if you're identified as that individual, you have to report information to the police. And, you know, we'll take your word for it if you're reporting in, good faith. Even though a crime may not occur, don't worry about that. Report it to us, and we'll investigate and figure it out if it fits in our category. All right? And we'll take pretty much all those crimes. Timely warnings here. Again, you see those coming out and about here. So any one of those Clery crimes that we talked about or any other serious crime that occur on campus here or in the vicinity of campus of our jurisdiction at the time, we have to put out timely warnings. And there is no time frame set when the timely warning should go out. We've been arguing back and forth because initially they wanted us to get that out in 30 minutes, and sometimes law enforcement we say we don't have enough information to put out, and we don't want to keep correcting things. So that time frame depends on the particular incident that's occurred and when you knew about it and when you had enough information that makes sense to put out. You know, what occurred, who may have done it, and we're putting it out for two reasons: to warn folks that this crime has occurred, to seek information from you, and we believe that there is an ongoing threat to the campus. You know, if two folks know each other, get involved in an incident, and one kills the other, we don't necessarily need to put out a timely warning. If they just had a beef with each other, we could chalk that up. Now, something like that, we certainly gonna slip you a note or so to let you know that occurred. But basically, it's a crime that we believe is ongoing, and there's some ongoing threat to the campus community. That's when we have to put those out. Record keeping. We put out our annual security report again every October 1st. We'll send that information out to you. And again, it's for the prior 3 years before us here, so we will share that information. One of the things that's being added to this is our student conduct disciplinary reports. Clery continues to grow and grow over the years, So now we get into student conduct. It may not be criminal behavior, and some may be, but if it's conduct that our student conduct folks get involved, and if it's something that's reported to them where somebody might receive some discipline, then we report those disciplinary conduct actions. And for the most part, most of it has to do around drugs, liquor, and weapons violations that we now keep track of for the purposes of clearing. And again, we have to retain a lot of records here. They suggest that we retain records for about 7 years, so if we have to go back and use some of that information. And again, our information needs to be easily retrievable. So if you want to know about the crime, hopefully you can go online within 2 to 3 clicks and get that information. Non-compliance, if we choose not to comply with it, or if we accidentally not comply with Clery and we get audited, we're subject to some serious matters here. They can restrict any federal funding, and what the Department of Education likes to do is put a school's name in the newspaper. They're not above shaming you for whatever reason they choose to do that. Again, they can attack any grants that we have, financial aid, if we choose not to comply. Typically what they would do with an audit finding, if you're out of compliance, if somehow you were showing some kind of good faith effort and you still were in violation, they're pretty good about, not taking money from colleges. But if you, don't work cooperatively when DOE calls you, then they'll get at you. I had a surprise call last semester from DOE. We had an incident at the Wellness Center, and it hit the papers, the last one, and all of a sudden a gentleman from Washington, D.C. gave me a call and wanted to know about the case and wanted to know, did we put out a timely warrant, did we follow Clery? He asked for information. He gave me 2 weeks to get it to him. I gave it to him the next day, and we went back and forth a little bit, and he said, okay, you guys all right. So thankfully we had the information, we put out a timely warrant, and we came out okay. But just out of the blue, they're reading the paper here in San Francisco. So, and I believe they were watching. Exactly, for me to get a call all of a sudden, I thought that was pretty odd. But they watch you, they know it when you're on the radar. And again, any report that they do of a finding, again, is public record, so they put that information out. It's available to people to see if you're not in compliance. Next slide, please. These are just, again, some dollar amounts of some folks who got fined. This college here, $200,000 for a couple of universities there, and they can actually, if they do an audit, when they typically come back, they can go back 10, 15 years and look at your institution, and they're going to ask you, where's this paperwork? Did you put this out? Did you put that out? So they can kind of go far-reaching, the DOE there. Next, please. And I think this was the latest one that got hit for $350 there. There was a murder that occurred on campus, and they did put out a timely warning and share that information with folks. It wasn't a known incident where, 2 people got together and one decided to kill each other. When they looked at the case, a timely warning should have been issued because it was a stranger attack, and it didn't happen. So you got to be careful. Next here. Some role of the executive folks here, people like we administrators here, need to make sure that, and that's where we're challenged a little bit from time to time. We're a large institution, so it's tough for us sometimes to let everybody know who's a campus security authority that you are one. And so we've got to find a better way of making sure those who are. And again, some of the audits, what the DOE has done, they've walked around campus and they just run into somebody who they believe is a campus security authority, and they ask them about it, and they get that deer look in their face, like, I don't know what Clery is, never heard of it, don't care about it, and that's not an answer you want to give. A couple of things that they want you to be able to do is certainly know that it exists, where people can go and get information. So we've got to get this little pony show around a little bit, that more folks have it. Question?
So what would you think the proper training would be? What, like, is what you're doing here today considered training? Would it be more intensive than this?
A little bit more intensive. One of the things that, again, when I talked about the slide that is an institutional concern, what we really need to do, and the DOE is encouraged, and more people go to training that are put on by experts. Meaning, I always go, and my sergeant and I are actually going at the end of this month. But what they really want to go, I'm going to look at our chancellor here, they really want chancellors and lawyers and Title IX coordinators and folks like Samuel to start going to these trainings. And so they're stretching it, not just the police chiefs, we typically go because, they'll say crime and we'll go. So that's when they talk about proper training, is really getting at the executive level, and I would argue the president's cabinet. If somebody came into one of your meetings, they wanted to question you guys, what do you know about clearing? And are you making sure that the folks like me are doing what I'm supposed to do? So, and then ongoing training, because the laws, they add on to them all the time. And the last bullet point here regarding capacity for compliance is something that they're starting to talk about a lot. And what they mean by that, again, can you comply with all the things in Clary, and how do you do that? And what they're really looking for at large institutions, and particularly institutions that have residency, is that they have pretty much an individual or employee position, that's what they do 40 hours a week, is to make sure that we're compliant with all the policies and procedures in Clary. And so the question they would ask us being so large, who do you have really overseeing our capacity for being in compliance? Are we meeting all the laws that come out, and can we really do it with maybe a part-time police sergeant looking over it? So we might have to beg the question, should we have an employee spending at least 50% of their time just keeping up with Clary? So they're going to be looking at how you feel that. Let's see. Now some additional information here. There are some new things that have come out that took place July 1st here. And that's the Violence Against Women Act, which actually they revised in 2013. But they gave us some leeway in coming into compliance with it. President Obama put this act into play here, and what it wanted to do is add some additional reporting, things that we now report as of this month here. And the additional crimes that were added to this, and we get a lot of this on campus here. Samuel will tell you that he and I talk weekly about incidents that occur. Domestic violence on our college campus, it's quite extensive. We have a lot of people here in, romantic relationships here at our campus, and they don't always go so well. And in the past, it wasn't one of the original Clery crimes, and we didn't track that. And so now, domestic violence, all sexual assaults, dating violence, and stalking have all been added to crimes that not only we have to report, but we also have to have some crime prevention strategies in place to train all our new incoming students and current students and employees about what to do if you see one of these things occurring on campus. The term bystander intervention is a real big thing that's coming into play. Lonnie's not here, but she's got some training that the entire campus is going to have to go through that talks about how we can prevent some of these things, what are some of the things that employees and students can do if they know that this is going on. So critical training that's coming up real soon, because we've got to get that done in the next semester to be in compliance with the law. Also, what the Violence Against Women Act has put into play is that we have to have an MOU with the local law enforcement, and that MOU will cover that they will assist us in investigating sexual assaults, crime prevention strategies, and those kind of things. One of and I was just at this conference that I mentioned earlier, one of the interesting things is these are federal laws that come down, mandates that, requirement for the local law enforcement agency to work with you. And I was talking with a colleague who's down at San Diego Community College, and he told me he, went to the new police chief, or she's been there a couple of years, and said, we gotta have this MOU. And after she read it and talked about all the things they have to support, and she said, what's in it for me? That's not what I want to do. And so at this point, she's kind of refusing to enter in this MOU. So the federal law says we have to have it, but it's nothing that forces your local law enforcement agency to really comply if they're going to find it too burdensome for themselves. So luckily, we don't have that problem. SFPD is on board with assisting us. A few other things here. And also, we talk about students a lot, but this also refers to employees. So, our classified folks and faculty folks, in the event that you get referred to someone for drug, liquor, and weapons law violations here, we're required to report that as well. And typically what they look at, a violation that needs to be reported, is that number one, if we have rules and regulations on our college that speak to the fact that you can't violate these particular sections here of our district policies, and there is some punishment possibly attached, then we have to report those things, whether or not you ever get punished or whether or not an investigation takes place. If it occurs, then we want to report that stuff. We talked a little bit about the mandatory training for students. And then again, our Title IX coordinator is going to take the lead in sexual assault, sexual harassment cases that happen here on campus. Again, that's not the purview of the police department, particularly if someone doesn't want to go through the criminal proceedings process, but it still occurs on our campus. We have to have somebody looking at that and taking some other appropriate action on behalf of the college. Additional assistance that we might need, and I'm going to be talking to my boss, or maybe the chancellor when I get her in here at some point, is seeking some suggestions on how we can get folks like HR to really assist us and let employees know, adding that possibly to the job description when you come on, that hey, you're a campus security authority. Also, we have to let perspective, and these are two key words, employees and prospective employees. So you don't even have to be an employee. If you're going to look at a job application here, you need to be getting the information about crime stats. So typically what they're looking for HR to have something on their website, thank you for applying for a particular job. Also, if you want to know about, Clery Act or crimes on campus, here's where you can look at that even before you become an employee. So the law states that we have to do that before somebody becomes an employee. So if you're a prospective employee, prospective student, you should get that information. And they threw out places like admission and records. If a student walks up in line there, not only do you give them all the information about how to apply to school here, you have to at least make some kind of mention that, oh, by the way, if you want to look at criminal activity on college, here you go. Here's where you can look. So we have to do that. Next slide. I think that's getting close to it. Is that it?
This is your last.
That was it. All right, did it shorter than that 2 hours? So how we do? All right. Any quick questions for me here? Yes, Wayne.
So we were debating. I thought you said faculty were only security, whatever, officers if we have field trips. Is that right?
There's other instances, but by and large, just because you're a faculty member, it actually doesn't come under that, just by the mere teaching. But they have so many caveats of what faculty would do and how much time they spend with students and some other things.
So just by virtue of
Just by being a faculty, you get a slide. I don't know why they gave you guys a slide, but they did. So it's really going to see. I think Karen and Steve.
So I don't want to get too much into particulars, but for instance, in the library, people will come up to the reference desk and say, sometimes, I put my phone down, I went away, I came back, someone has taken it, right? And that, I assume, that we always call the campus police for that and report it in that way. But is there sort of I noticed, burglary, robbery are there. Is there a downward limit when somebody says, I put my flash drive down, I walked away, I came back, I think someone took it, but I have to go to class now, I'm not going to bother with the police, I just want to see if it was turned in. Is that something we should be reporting, or?
Those, other than, it's always good to report everything to us for other reasons, but for the purposes of clearing, that wouldn't be a clearing violation. So that's, it would be okay if we didn't do that. And also one thing about Clary too is, for some strange reason, they would also fine us if you over-report. So believe it or not, if you over-report particular crimes, or you reported as a burglary and it really was a low-end theft, they actually do that. I'm not quite sure why. Steve, you good?
Do you have an emergency text system?
We do, and you will be getting information on that shortly. In fact, I was loading some things up today. We're working with the company that we have on board and IT to get this stuff loaded. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll have everybody migrated to it, and we are doing a opt-out operation, so everybody's going to be in the system, and if you choose to opt out, you can, and of course we're going to log that, and the minute you call me and say I didn't get this information, we're going to say, aha, you hit 3 keys, and you log yourself out. So yeah, so that's coming. It's more of a robust system than we had in the past, and hopefully most of the information that you'll be getting will be important information from other places like Jeff Hamilton, student information, and no more than once a year, so get an emergency alert from me where we keep things safe. But we're coming out with 2 systems here. Thanks for asking that question, Dana. That system, in addition to we have just purchased a safety app. A company is putting that together for us. And so what that allows you to do is download an app and you can report stuff, because the notification is just, us administrators going out. But this one, if you're walking across campus, you can report stuff to our police dispatch, and your GPS will come up where you are. You can take a picture and send that to us and all those good things. So that's coming up. Hopefully, right at fall, we'll have all of this solidified. All righty. Thanks a lot, ladies and gentlemen. All right.
Thank you very much, Chief Barnes. We're at the public comment part of the agenda.
I don't know if we should do this today. Is that so anyone has anything to say?
Does anyone have any comments? We're at the public comment section.
Yeah?
Yes, we are.
Hello everyone. I would like please to address the process about this change. How can I phrase it? From what I understand, that all constituent group was notified about this major change, fast change, classified faculty, administrators, all of them has been notified, but the student leadership. Are we not part of this college? Are we not a constituent group? Does our voice matter at this college? We feel very dismissed. We feel that our voice is not considered and that we are not part of this college. And that's what I would like to say today. And I will stop at that for today. Thank you.
Are there other public comments today? Madeline?
I've been at several meetings lately and complained about an exempt button on our registration form. It's been fixed. And so I want to thank our Chancellor and Joe Job. I got a midnight email stuff from our webmaster. And so now if a student is coming in, I tried being a pretend student. And I couldn't get past this exempt button because I was going to just take one class, I thought, because it was an obsolete form. And now it's an up-to-date form. It's quite a good form. There may be some tweaking, but because I don't want you to hear me complaining all the time, that it's fixed. And thank you.
Wanted to take a look at the calendar, just a sec. Just for the group, I know we had voted to say cancel August 6th. Sorry to bring it back up again, but I'm noticing that it's 3 weeks away. It's not like it's just 2 weeks away. So I'm wondering, what if we were to schedule earlier in the day and then can we then cancel it later if I'm not sure how that would work.
Why not two?
Because it's 3 weeks away. So I mean, if the group is still comfortable, that we just leave it. Because I'm just concerned that we're going to be having. I'm hearing that there's a lot of accreditation meetings going on, and I'm concerned that there will be some more reports that we might want to be hearing.
Is there, I forget, is there a reason why it's scheduled for 3 weeks from now and not 2 weeks from now?
Because I think we meet on.
I think it's because there's 5 Thursdays this month.
Oh.
So it's an odd month. So there's an extra Thursday. That's all.
What about meeting on the 30th instead of the 6th?
Right.
We meet on the 30th then instead of the 6th? Would that work? Okay, so I want to put that out there because I know many of the committee members here said they couldn't do all the 6th, but I also know that we have many other members who aren't here. They might have been able to, so I just wanted to bring it up because I know that there are a lot of meetings going on right now, and so we might have reports. So how about changing it to, will be July 30th then? And then at 3:30? Does that work for everybody? Yes? Anyone who can't live with that? Okay, so then we're going to change the next meeting to July 30th at 3:30. Okay? And no other public comments. We're going to adjourn at 4:45. Okay? Thank you very much.